Got a ton of, I sent that link to, I don't know, 15, 20 people. So only like 5 have joined, it looks like.
Yeah, no, there's no requests.
Yeah, I've been keeping an eye on it.
Yeah.
Um,
The 150 barrier, that's a good thing.
yeah, 4 online now, so that means 4 people basically potentially going to click the link, and I'm one of them. You're probably the other.
Hmm. Uh,
People said they're getting on.
I mean, I'm not anticipating no one.
Yeah.
I think we'll have people. All right, Tim is in the waiting room. I don't know who Tim is. I'd like to give 2 people in the waiting. So yeah, a Talladega buyer out of nowhere.
Great.
Hmm. Only 2 in the waiting room. I don't want to let them sit there too long, but I also don't want to have just 2 people sitting in here.
Yep.
Hey, there's 155. 156.
All right. Climbing, climbing.
All right, I think I'm gonna have to let these people in. It's been 2 minutes.
Yep, let's do it. What up, Alan? What up, Tim?
How are you?
Thanks for coming in the middle of the day, guys. This is a fun one. We're actually excited to share the one. It's pretty simple in terms of the actual project, but great story on this one. There's Brendan.
What's up, Brendan?
That is
Guys.
a great whiteboard you have next to you.
Yeah, I get that a lot. It's pretty old though. I think like I wrote them all down like thinking I was going to use them, but just like the act of writing them all down, they're pretty much memorized now.
Oh, it's all
Oh,
script?
that's not all deals.
No, fuck.
Oh, I was gonna say, man, there's a lot
No.
of deals. You got a lot going on.
That's what I'm going to start saying though. Thank you for that.
Yeah, the green ones are in escrow ready to close. That's profit. The
Yeah, yeah.
red ones are negotiating.
Alan's on my team also. Alan
Oh,
and me.
awesome.
Yeah,
Sweet.
we've been working together for a couple of years now. I met him also from the community.
Super cool. Yeah, we're not going to wait too long. We'll just give it another 2 minutes. We promoted this one a little bit late and added it to the calendar a little bit late.
We have people who are still requesting to get the link, like as of a minute or so ago. So I would think we should get some more people coming in here. All right. Yeah, we'll give it to 105 and then we'll get it started.
Hey guys, not to hijack with personal problems, but I have an issue with my screen. So it will just go off and I have to close it and reopen it. So if there's a couple times you have to let me back in the meeting, it's on my end.
All right, and if we don't let you in, it's not that we're not trying to let you in. Sometimes we just get caught up in conversation and we don't see the pending requests, so.
No, I keep an eye on
As
it.
quick as we can.
Okay, I get it.
Jeremy kind of runs these and I keep an eye on it. Same
I
thing,
know.
if anyone has a question, throw it in the chat. We'll try and get to him like in as best real time as we can while we're going through, instead of waiting to the end. Just think that's a lot more powerful to discuss in real time.
Yep. All right, cool. Let's just dive into this thing. If more people show up, fantastic. Unfortunately, I think once people realize that there's gonna be recordings, everyone just says, I'll just watch the recording. So that's probably part of the problem here. All right, I'm gonna share my screen and you guys can see that, right? Cool.
Yep.
Okay, so like Dave said, this is an interesting story. The project itself was nothing. So this is all about creativity, being open to new things, making sure you're looking at your properties through all the right lenses. And you'll kind of see the journey we went through on this one and how much we pivoted inside of this deal. And went from what we thought was going to be a $10,000 assignment to a basically a $53,000 net profit.
Yeah, and the goal is to get you guys to kind of see the world through the lens that we look through. We've always looked at everything from a best and highest, but when we started our journey 4 years ago, we never thought we'd be flipping, let alone virtually. And the data just started telling us, hey, like you guys kind of need to get into this year. Not just because you're leaving money on the table. Like we all know as wholesalers, that's part of it, right? We trade the low risk, low barrier to entry for the exposure and the additional profit that a flipper is making. But this one was super unique and kind of started our journey. And what I like about this is there's a couple things I like about it, but just how simple it was. This was arguably, as far as fix and flips go, the least scary fix and flip you could possibly get into. I'll leave it there and let Jeremy kind of start going through.
Yep. Okay, so first thing that should jump out to anybody who's inside Sub 2, this house was on Pace Street, 3809 West Pace Street in Thatcher, Arizona. We actually sent this deal to Pace and he did not buy it. And in a minute, I'll get into why he didn't want it. So just the general numbers of the deal, purchased it for $182,000, did a $12,000 reno, and we had a $60,000 private money lender in the deal. We sold it for $275 with an estimated net profit of around $53,000. That's not estimated; it's our actual profit, about $53,000. ROI, which is one of the two metrics we look at to get into a deal. Again, we shoot to be no less than 12, and if it's a lower price deal, we want to be really above 15. This was a almost 24% ROI. The rental project took us around 30 days. The listing to contract was actually 16 days. And I think it was that's what Zillow says as far as like when it was actually recorded, when our agent updated the listing to show that it was in contract. I think we were going back and forth with the buyer for a few days as well. So I think it was actually less than 16. It may have been, under 2 weeks that it took us to get in contract. Total project from the time we bought it until the time we sold it was 91 days. So right at that 3-month mark that sweet spot that we love, which any of us that are doing flips right now probably starting to realize the days of doing a full project in and out in 3 months is probably over for a while, unless you get really lucky. We're just seeing longer days on market everywhere across the country. So, we're now factoring in minimum of 4 months, but really factoring in like 6 months for anything we're underwriting at this point, just to be safe, right? If you could sell it quicker, fantastic. But things have really slowed down over the last, I'd say, 2 months. across the
And this
country.
is important. Our rule going into a deal and the conversation we have with our agents is not, hey, we're trying to bring this thing to top of market and get top dollar for it. We're crystal clear with our team that we want to give the market the product that it wants at the price that it wants. So our conversation is, hey, what's the price based on what you know is happening in the market right now? What is the price without leaving money on the table that would have this thing in contract quickly? You know, we used to say within a week. Again, buyers are just, they have more options now as more inventory hits the market. So they're not making those quick decisions. But still, you know, we want to price it so that we'll still come in to the lower end of what the average days on market is for, you know, the zip code or area that we're in.
Yep. All right, so this is definitely the most boring page on the entire presentation. So let's get into the actual deal, what it looked like when we went into it. Okay, anytime you want to change, why is it not doing it? Here we go. Let's just do it this way. Okay, so this is the actual deal. We bought it subject to the existing mortgage of 144 that had a 4% interest rate. Where it came from was, this is when Dave and I were doing a lot of foreclosures. That was our primary marketing strategy. We were reaching out to basically every auction across the country. So that's why we ended up with a deal in Thatcher, Arizona, and $14,000 in arrears to catch up the mortgage and get it out of foreclosure. Seller wanted $25,000 cash, and you have to factor in on a sub 2 around a $5,000 closing cost. So you add these things up, and this is where it becomes a problem. Like Dave mentioned, I think I was post earlier. When anyone who's tried to assign a sub 2 deal or has bought a sub 2 deal from another from a wholesaler, entry fee becomes the biggest barrier for us, right? We always want to try and stay that magic 10% number for your entry fee. Well, this one had 14 in arrears, 25 cash to seller plus closing costs. You know, we're already at 44,000. And then that we'd have to throw an assignment on it. Let's just say we threw a 10,000 assignment on it. Now we're at $54,000, right? So 54,000 on what was essentially a sub $300,000 house. That's, you know, you're getting close to that 20% number. So it's just the buyer pool drops significantly the larger your entry fee is. So again, we sent this deal to Pace. He didn't like it, not because of the entry fee. Pace didn't like it because it was too far away from a major metro, right? So Thatcher, Arizona so here's Phoenix. Thatcher, Arizona is a 3-hour, 40-minute drive from Phoenix, whichever way you go, basically. It's 3 hours and 40 minutes. It's 2 hours from Tucson, right? So it's too far away from a metro that was kind of what we heard from everybody. You know, nope, it's out in the middle of nowhere. And the problem with thinking that way, and if it's your business model, that's completely fine. And, you know, I think it's safe to say we looked at deals this way in the past as well. We would just look at it and say, no way, man, that's 2 hours from the nearest metro. That's going to be way too rural. We're never going to be able to get a wrap buyer in there. We're never going to be able to get a lease option buyer in there. It just limits our exit strategies. We can't do it. So we didn't know what we were going to do with this thing. We were just getting absolutely no bites on assigning this subject to. So I started digging into the active listings, right? And this was eye-opening for us. Now these pictures here, unfortunately, I can't go back and look at what Zillow's activity was at the time we did this deal, but this is today's. I literally pulled this morning. Okay, left side is the active listings. There's only 3 active listings in this neighborhood. Okay. And I'll show you guys in a couple minutes what this looks like. This is this neighborhood is kind of in the middle of nowhere. Like Thatcher is not a big town. And this is even removed from everything else in Thatcher. So 3 active listings in the neighborhood. And then this side is all the sold properties over the last 12 months in the neighborhood. So you can see there's considerably more that has sold in the past 12 months than there is active listings. And even I also pulled up sold in the last 30 days. And I believe it was something like 7 properties have sold in the last 30 days in this little tiny neighborhood. So we were discussing this deal this morning when we were putting this together, and I said I would gladly do another deal right now. If I found a house, I would absolutely do another deal based on this data right here. This tells me there is buyer demand in this neighborhood. You don't even have to look at Thatcher as a town, just look at this neighborhood. So once we saw this, we saw these numbers, and I started clicking on each of the sold comps in the neighborhood, and we started seeing a trend. It was like 4 days on market, 6 days on market, 7 days on market, 2 days on market. Everything that hit the market was selling instantly. So I handed it over to Dave, and he did his thing, right? Dave's side of the business is opening a new market for us, finding a team for us. That's his side of things. So he went to work and said, hey, you know what? There's one on our street that just sold. Let's find that agent. Let's call that agent and see what she has to say. So what she tells us is she just sold a similar property in similar condition on our street for $255,000, and it went in contract in 4 days. Our house also has an additional workshop and an RV pad. So immediately we're like, ooh, okay, so you're telling me if we just buy this thing instead of worry about signing as a sub 2, you're confident that with doing almost no work, we can sell this thing very quickly and make a pretty nice profit. And she basically said, yeah, absolutely. If you give this property to me, I feel confident we can sell it and be in contract very, very quickly. So we pivoted, obviously, and we decided to take the property down, take it down ourselves. We had to bring in a private lender because, again, we had the entry fee. This all still has to be paid, right? You still have the $14,000, $25K to sellers, and $5,000 in closing costs. And when you're doing multiple deals, you don't want to have 40, 50,000 of your own cash in the deals. It's just better to bring a private lender in, right? Use your cash for running the business. Use your lenders to get your deals done. So we get in this deal. I'll walk through the calculator on this real quick. Our ARV was 275. So again, that other house sold for 255 in same condition with no shop or RV pad, right? So we were able to get 20,000 more than they sold theirs for. We only put $12,000 into this thing. We had almost no rehab. We had to replace like 1 or 2 bedrooms of carpeting had to be replaced. There was an issue with an electrical panel that had to be fixed. That we painted the inside of the house and did a clean out. And I think that was everything that we did. And it was $12,000 for our full rehab. Now, mind you, like Dave said earlier, we aren't looking to bring this house up to HGTV standards, right? The neighborhood didn't justify that. The sold data told us that it wasn't necessary. So why are you going to do it, right? These houses were selling basically the day they hit the market in as is condition. So why are you going to renovate it any more than is necessary, right? Make the house clean, make the house safe, and give it a fresh coat of paint. And that's basically what we did. We didn't touch the kitchen. The cabinets were old. The countertops were old. We didn't do anything.
And who really made those decisions for us? That was at the guidance of our local professional who knows what the buyers want.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep. So, all right. So why did this deal work for us, but it wouldn't work for anybody else? Well, first we looked into the data, right? We didn't just look at it and say, nope, it's rural. I don't want to touch it. It goes against our buy box. We looked at the data, and the data said, hey, this is actually a micro market that things fly off the shelf. It doesn't make a lot of sense. I still don't quite understand it. I don't know what the attraction is to Thatcher, Arizona, but there is a ton of retail activity constantly happening there. So rather than if you were on any of our previous deal breakdowns, rather than going and using Kiavi, paying 12% interest to Kiavi, 1 point up front, $1,000 service fee, and then have to do draws for your, your rehab, and that getting charged every time you do a draw request. We took this over subject to, right? So we had a 4% interest rate, 0 points, and 0 service fee. So we saved thousands of dollars by getting it sub 2, right? So
as long as we had clear title, it allowed us to close quickly.
Yep. So, a lot of people tend to get married to a sub 2 deal because they're afraid to give up that great interest rate, right? Like I'm not, if I get a 2.5% interest rate, I can never, ever let that deal go. It's too good. I have to keep the interest rate. I've seen plenty of people get in trouble because they feel like they can't pass on a great interest rate. Would you rather keep a 4% interest rate that maybe cash flows a couple $100 a month, or get a 50? Well, I put this in a different calculator than the other one. This shows $51,000 profit, right? If you're running a business, bringing $51,000 into your business that you can then put back into marketing and turn into, $100, $200, $400,000 over the, course of the year. This is way, way more profitable for us to let this 4% interest rate go, turn it into a fix and flip, and move on, right? Just don't get married to the idea of a really low interest rate has to always stay in your portfolio. It's just too many people are doing it. Okay, so this one ended up giving us a 23% ROI. And there was nothing, literally nothing on this deal once we got into it that worried us, scared us. No, nothing popped up. I think the only thing that may have popped up was probably that electrical issue, and that issue probably cost us a couple $1,000s. Right? It was electrical panel on the workshop, I think, or it was either the workshop or the back half of the house had like a separate panel, and that had an issue with it, had to be fixed. So that is the real quick breakdown on this thing. I want to open this up for questions at this point, and we can kind of dive deeper into some of this stuff if you guys want. Who has any questions on any of the stuff that we went over so far?
No, I don't have
So
any
our goal on
questions.
choosing a simple one like this, I know that our perception of the bottlenecks that are keeping people from, even experienced flippers, from doing flips virtually when they're struggling in their own market. Competition's getting higher, prices are getting higher, there's just less inventory, or more inventory, making it harder to sell. Part of what's holding people back is being able to analyze the data, being able to organize the team. So like this one, in the grand scheme of an actual project, was super boring and simple. We literally threw some paint and carpet down. No brainer at the guidance of our realtor. So there was no real, like, our normal SOPs, for our construction and our draw schedule and all those things, like, didn't even come into play on this.
Right.
What we want you guys to see in this is how we look at other markets and how we uncover opportunity that is passing a lot of people by. Don't just stop flipping or not begin flipping because the market you are familiar with doesn't make sense. There's plenty of other markets and micro markets out there that you can identify, through real-time data that are, less risky. There's always risk when you're, getting into a project. But again, trust the data, put together a good team, have the hard conversations, know what questions to ask. And, and then be conservative, like we said. What are we doing now? We know that we used to be able to get, we control what we can control, right? We still can control the time it takes us from when we close on it to the time that we get our team in there to start renovation. We can control our schedule for that renovation by setting good upfront agreements in advance and having a draw schedule and staying on top of our contractor and having those conversations. We can control our exposure on that side of things. Once we hit the market, that's where we lose a bit of control. We can't control if a local developer adds a whole, community to the market and, inventory goes way up. But what we can do is going into our underwriting on the deal, we can account for what's happening in the market right now and that buyers are, days on market's going up. And we can, instead of assuming we'll be in and out of a project in 4 months, we can say, you know what, let's be safe. Let's add 2 more months. Let's account for longer hold times, our cost of capital on that. Let's maybe find lenders that give us a better rate. As you guys saw, I think it was our last deal, our lender was at 18% annualized. The lenders you take on in the beginning of your journey aren't necessarily your forever lenders, or the terms that you agree to on your first couple deals when you're proving yourself aren't necessarily the terms you'll have forever, because you're constantly building your credibility packet to where when you have another successful exit, another successful exit, another successful exit, now it's telling a story. Now, the numbers don't lie. Now you're kind of vouched for because you have that real experience. So as people are seeing what you're doing and you're asking for more private money, you'll find that private money comes looking for you as you start talking about more deals you've done. And now you are in a better bargaining position to set the terms, be like, when they're like, oh, I want this, we'd be like, sorry, I have this is what we're paying our lenders right now. Put you in a power position when you're, now you're not actively looking for private capital. Now the capital is constantly just coming to you and you get to pick and choose who you're going to work with.
Yeah, unfortunately, most lenders don't have, bottomless pockets. So, even if you have a good lender who's going to give you good terms, you put them in 2, 3, 4 deals. And if say they went in 50 grand a deal for 4 deals and, you thought they were a great lender because they had $200,000 they wanted to lend to you. Well, now your 5th deal shows up and well, who are you going to use now? Right. So now is when you go to that 18% lender who's like, hey, if you ever have a deal and you really need somebody, yeah, I'm here, I'm available. These are my terms. I'll be here when you need me. You use that 18% lender for that 5th deal. And then once your primary lender becomes available again, once you cash him out of a couple of deals, then you stick him back in. He or she gets priority. Right. We have a handful of lenders and we will pick and choose who we put in which deal, depending on how fast we're going to get out of it, what our strategy is. Are they first or second position? But it absolutely helps to have the flexibility.
And remember, that's, your business doesn't have to look like ours. We have 6 flips we're exiting right now. We just exited 2. So we had to have multiple lenders and deals. You may say, hey, Jeremy, Dave, I only want to do 1 deal next year. And I have a good W-2 and I have capital just sitting on the sideline. If I could get a good hard money lender to cover, 90% purchase and 100% reno, I can float the gap out of my pocket. I'm not worried about getting lenders. That's a great place to be in, and there's nothing wrong with that. The only advice I would give you is treat yourself and your own capital as a lender on the deal and underwrite as such. Your capital should still be making money for you if you're going to put it in the deal with risk. Give yourself a preferred rate if you want. If hard money is at 12% and you want to only pay yourself 8%, you could set your own terms. You're the bank on that one. But don't overcomplicate these. Is really the point. They're not as scary as they need to be. Just having good SOPs, good underwriting. It all starts with really good underwriting, and then having a good team in place that you trust, asking the right questions, and then just controlling what you can control on the flow of the project.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I don't think a lot of people talk about with flips, and it really becomes obvious with this one. If you're picking a market, don't go to a market where you have to have an HGTV house to be able to sell it on the back end. Right? Like, don't go to the most expensive sections of Miami. You know, like, yeah, you gotta have a $400,000 renovation just to sell a house there, you know? We literally didn't have to do anything. Our agent told us, don't do anything, guys. Just throw a coat of paint on it and fix the electrical problem, and replace 2 bedrooms of carpet because they smell and they're dirty. That's it. And anywhere in this neighborhood, someone will buy that house.
If you have a burning desire to spend more money on a certain renovation in the house, ask your agent, say, hey, what's my ROI on this? If I go spend the extra $1,000 to do this thing, am I going to get $4,000 back from my buyer? Or whatever multiplier, you're comfortable with. If their answer is no, don't spend it. Or say, hey, if I don't spend this $1,000, am I going to get that many less people looking at it because everyone expects this thing? Then the answer is, well, you better go spend that $1,000, because why limit your buyer pool? Because everyone expects this thing to be done and you just didn't do it.
Okay. Any questions on this stuff?
Yes, can I ask you a question?
Yes, absolutely.
Virtually, how do you find the team to rehab it, and how do you control them? Like, what's the actual process with that?
Yep, go ahead, Dave. This is you.
Yeah, so finding the team comes to, I interview multiple agents. So I have a whole process that I go through. It's not difficult at all. It's not rocket science. It's constantly being refined. But in a small market like this, there's not a massive pool. So I start with the agents that have sold the homes similar to ours. I look at the most recent comps and I say, hey, you just sold this right down the street. I have something under contract in the neighborhood. Do you have the bandwidth to take on another listing? Okay. Do you have a contractor that you work with? Probably one of our biggest secrets is we get our contractors from referral. And generally speaking, we have a lot of luck getting our contractors from our agents. If they have the track record of having worked together before on multiple projects, that to me, I will, even if I'm maybe not getting the best rate from my contractor, the fact that we can run a project seamlessly, start to finish, because that relationship they already have is worth way more to me.
Okay,
So
thank you.
generally speaking, get your contractor from a referral, ideally from your agent. And that's one of the qualifying questions I ask. Do you have a contractor you're familiar with? Because what do we do, right? When we get something under contract, we haven't actually walked it. We've maybe got some photos. We've underwritten it based on the information that we have from our phone conversations, maybe some photos that we've gotten. So really our local team is confirming our numbers. They're letting us know if we're right or wrong. And so again, what do? We send them in there without giving them our numbers. And my goal, we're constantly filtering people. So like the team that we find for our first reno, depending how they perform, may not be our forever team. But what do I care about? I care about speed. So how quick can, like, this new agent that I just called and basically handed you cash? I said, I have something under contract. If we end up buying it, you're going to get the listing and your contractor is going to get the work.
Mhm.
I want to see them perform, right? How quick can you be on property with your contractor? And then I ask for a checklist. I need this, 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 and this. I'm going to need a video walkthrough narrated. I'm going to need detailed photos of the property. I could give them a checklist if they don't know what that is. And then I want them to, run me a CMA. I give them our criteria. Hey, contractor, can we get this done in this time frame? And I don't give them a budget. I say, how much would it cost? And then the agent is, hey, what level of renovation do we need to bring this to? What price are we going to list it at if our goal is to move it quickly?
Okay.
So
Like,
I enroll them in our vision. I make them part of our team immediately. And then I empower them to, to be the local expert and to perform.
once you
But yeah, I
guys,
care about their track record. With the agent, I care that they actually have sales. And then you know, that doesn't always work because sometimes they have sales, but they're not responsive. Maybe they're too busy. That doesn't work for us. So really what I care about is how they show up.
Okay.
I was gonna ask, when you guys like you never bought a house in Thatcher, Arizona. Now that you have the beginnings of a team there, does that affect your does that increase your chances of buying in Thatcher again? And do you now consider that, or is that, I mean, that's obviously a small market, so this might not be a good example. If it was a little
No,
big,
great question.
The quick answer is 100%. Absolutely. The hard part is building a team and being successful with the team. Once you have that team in place, yeah, you want to keep them busy and you want to do more deals there. And I would be more willing to take a borderline deal. You know, Dave and I talk all the time about being conservative. You know, we're looking at, let's just say 35 and 12 or 35%, $35,000 return, you know, net profit and a let's say 12% ROI is probably as low as we'd go. I'd be more willing to take that 35-12 in a market like Thatcher or in a Charlotte or in a Birmingham because we have really good teams there. And we know like, hey, it's not the greatest deal. We're not going to make a ton of money, but we know we're getting this project done super fast. We know the market, it's going to sell quickly, and we're okay, you know, with the expectation that we're not going to hit this one out of the park. Now, you know, we just entered Houston simply for 2 hedge funds. We're not planning on flipping there. We got a deal. Turned out that it didn't fit one of our hedge funds buy box. It had high tension power lines in the backyard. That's an automatic disqualifier. So immediately the thought was, okay, well, what if we just flip this thing? The numbers look good on the calculator. What if we just flip it? They didn't look that good. They looked kind of borderline. I think it was like 45,000 net profit and like a 15% ROI. So it was good. The problem is we don't have a team in Houston. We'd be taking a risk that we could find. We know we could find a team. We're taking a risk of what's the product that team is going to put out. Until we get that product on the backside of a deal with a new team, I want that first deal to be a $70,000 profit. So if everything goes wrong, we're still at least making money. Right.
Our first deal with a team will buffer a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So like Jeremy says, 35-12. I think our average is like 53, 54. And like, I don't think we've shown you guys a deal under like 20. And that seems to be kind of most of our deals. I'm happy with a less is more approach. You know, we're running a big team. Now it's the 2 of us. It's the 2 of us and 1 acquisition rep. We're outsourcing our marketing and we have 1 acquisition rep who's on straight commission. So our overhead is almost nothing. So it's a less is more. You know, coming off of spending 30 grand a month in marketing, having salaried employees, like now we can breathe. So it just makes it a lot easier to say no to a lot more stuff. Your rule is you're never selling yourself on a deal. If you ever find yourself trying to convince yourself to do a deal, abort.
Yeah, 100%. That
It's
happens
just,
a lot.
you know, if you're wrong, like go with your gut. There's a lot to be said about your gut in this business. Go with your gut because if you're wrong, it could just like be devastating when you're wrong on a flip.
Yeah, and you know, if you're someone who has not done, you know, any deals or you've only done 1 or 2 deals and you get this, you know, you finally get this motivated seller and you have the opportunity to do something with a property. You know, as an accountability leader inside Sub 2, I see deals all the time for people that come on my Thursday night calls. And I find more often than not, when they're asking me about their deal, my question to them is always, why do you want to do this deal? It's not a deal that I would do. Why are you trying to do this deal? It's better for you to walk away than to take a deal that has a high likelihood of not being successful, right? Sometimes the best deal you ever do is the one you pass on. So it's just super hard to get used to that. And that's the thing that I think changed Dave and I's mentality when we started using the calculator on every single underwriting. Because it's now green or red. That's it. If the bottom of the calculator is red, if either one of those two boxes is red, it's just a no. Like, nope, sorry, we just aren't going to buy it. And if they're both green, then we'll have a conversation, right? So it keeps us out of deals that can get us into trouble.
And like we said every time, what is our role? We want to sleep at night. I want to feel comfortable putting that deal in front of my private lenders who are trusting us with their money, knowing that, hey, if things go sideways, at the very least, they're getting their money back with profit. Because who's on the hook for it? At the end of the day, we are. Because I'm protecting my private lender relationships at all cost. That's the future of my business. Your reputation is absolutely everything in this business.
It's Tim here. You were saying with realtors, you go through their contractors. Do you
No,
find that
so,
most
yeah.
realtors have, in your experience, most realtors, so you search for ones that are selling a lot, they're actually actively working. You're talking about realtors that really are mainly working with real estate investors.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, correct.
Yeah, that's part of the filter. It's like a funnel, right? So what you're putting in the top of the funnel is agents who have done a lot of deals in the area, right? And then they'll work themselves down into the bottom of the funnel. And the ones that fall through the funnel are the ones who have done a lot of deals in the area, are familiar with investors, have worked with a lot of investors, and have most likely done flips themselves and do have contractors that they have a personal relationship with and they've been successful with. Right. So you might start with 10 at the top of the funnel and you end up with 1 on the bottom. And that 1, it's like, okay, now we're going to try and use this 1. Let's see, we're going to test this out. Let's date for a little while before we get married, right? So let's do a deal. Let's see how this all works. We can feel each other out. You'll understand our process. We dictate the entire process, right? They're coming in, we're bringing them into our team. Our team has rules. They will follow our rules of how the project gets done. Okay.
Thanks, that's very helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big part of it. I love that you referenced that as a team, because even though we are virtual, we very much, we're relying upon each other. Like we win together, we lose together. That's something we learned when we started working with virtual assistants, back in the beginning of our journey. A lot of people can have trouble with virtual assistants, and it's all in how you treat your team and how you communicate with them and how you pour into them. We're constantly educating our team because, we're running the show here. So the more we can inform our team and arm them with how we work and the tools that we work with and, just the knowledge that we have, the better we can perform together and the more money we can continually make together doing another deal. Because what happens is our agents make money with us and then they start, we don't ask in the beginning, but once we've done a deal or two, then we'll have them start sending us stuff. And that's constantly training them now on something new. It's training on how we underwrite. At some point, we should probably just give them our calculator so they can underwrite deals for us. We can teach them how we run comps. Because most agents
I
are
don't know
taught
why
to
we haven't
cost.
done that yet. That's a brilliant idea.
Yeah, we should actually
Why
just
haven't we?
take the hundreds of recorded underwriting Zooms that you've done, Jeremy, and put them in a folder and package them for our agents and be like, hey, before you send us a deal, watch these. And then here's our calculator, plug it into here. That's going to put all the work back on them. Hey, if you give us one that everything's green, you're going to get it. We're going to buy it and then we're going to flip it and then relist it and you're going to get paid twice on it.
Yeah.
You just got to do a little work. Don't send us shit. That's how we treat hedge funds. Our rule with when we sell to a fund is how do we stand out from everyone else? We make it easy for them to say yes. We do the dirty work, pulling the data, underwriting, doing all the things. So we say, hey, look, this is exactly what you told us you want. here it is on a silver platter, whereas everyone else is just wasting their time sending them shit. Make it easy for people. Look, as a fix and flipper, you're the buyer. Make it easy for anyone sending you opportunity to send you something to say yes to, so you don't have to waste a lot of time and burn yourself out combing through shit, because you're going to comb through a lot of shit.
Yep. Okay, any other questions on this deal or on anything in general? No, cool.
If you have time, I do have a quick one.
Absolutely.
Hell
But
yeah.
I'm new. I just hopped in last week for the first time, so I don't know what you guys usually go over or not, but I've only done one flip in my life. It just closed this month and it was a nightmare, but I loved it. So here I am.
Congrats.
All right, you closed on it. Congrats.
Dude, you just learned
did.
all the things. I'm sure that is the best lessons you can ever get. I like to learn my lessons the hard way. I say, those are the ones that really sink in, but congrats,
Well,
Tim. That's awesome.
When I started, someone
we help
said
you with?
everything that can go wrong will go wrong, and they were right. But here we are. So anyway, I'm just wondering, because I don't know how you guys usually approach it, but I'm wanting to build teams in certain areas. So I'm just kind of searching zip codes with the mindset of, if I could really narrow in on 2 or 3 zip codes and then start building my team in there, is that kind of a good first approach? Or you guys see some red flags with that?
Well, zip code is very specific, right?
You're
Zip
getting
code
too
is
narrow.
generally small. So, I would, are you looking at your local market, or are you looking to expand kind of wherever makes sense, right? That's kind of like the basis of our community, is that, you have the ability to do virtual fix and flip anywhere in the country, right? So that's like this Thatcher, Arizona. I'm never, ever going to step foot in Thatcher, Arizona in my entire life, right? But I'll gladly flip there all day long. So if I just look at, I happen to live in Birmingham, and that happens to be one of our markets, even though it is a virtual market for us. I wouldn't pinpoint one zip code in Birmingham, but I would say Shelby County, not Jefferson County and Shelby County and St. Clair. I would say Shelby County is where I would dial it in, right? One zip code is just going to be too small.
Generally speaking, start at the county level. You'll get more granular when you're underwriting if you're going to say yes to a deal or not. But on the preliminary research, start at the county level. But you are taking the right approach. I think you're just getting a little too granular, and you're going to limit yourself too much.
Perfect, thanks. Yeah, it's virtual. I'm in Canada, so everything I'm
Fantastic.
looking is in the States.
Tim, that
Awesome.
actually, you kind of just literally laid up something that I almost forgot to mention. If you guys check the calendars, or the calendar and the classroom section, we just put together a little 5-day mini challenge that's literally going to walk you through opening up a brand new virtual market. We're going to dive a little deeper with action steps. The goal on that, you'll see it in the classroom, but it's essentially the goal on that in 5 days. We'll show you how we do research, so you could choose a market. We will, give you options on funding. One of them will be our private money, or our hard money lender.
Yeah, sorry, we're not giving out our private lenders.
Yeah, we can't. Those are relationships. They bet the farm on us. So we'll show you how we actually build our local team. And then we'll get you actually finding deals that you can underwrite, and then using our calculator to underwrite deals and potentially make offers. So I think it's going to be a pretty fun challenge. That launches next Tuesday. It's in the calendar. It's in the classroom. If you can't make that's we're pretty excited about that.
Yeah, it's our first challenge. It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Cool. All right. This is a slightly shorter one, 49 minutes, but thank you guys for coming on and for giving us 45 minutes of your time. We really appreciate it. Continue to give us as much feedback as you guys can. throw stuff in the school community. If you have any questions, throw it in there. If you have any feedback and stuff, the stuff that you would like us to provide to the community, please let us know. Dave and I are here just guessing what you guys need. If you can tell us what it is you need, we can provide a lot better value to you. Okay.
Cool. Thanks, guys. Another good one.
Absolutely. Awesome.
Thank you,
Thanks,
guys.
everybody.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
It's awesome.